Equity, how to pay for it. This is the unanswered question to hundreds of reports that have been written, certainly over the 15 years that I began this journey to find an answer, develop an answer, and deliver that promise of resource equity in education. This could be the most transformative hour of this conference. So I'm asking, in the name of what we've all invested in time and treasure, in the interest of improving the quality of education and addressing and engaging the social determinants of education, to invest this 1 hour in learning how we can work together in support of our children. This has been prepared for the 2021 National ESEA Title I Conference, and I want to thank the committee for inviting us to the table. I am Rogelio Landin, President of Performance Ed, and I'd like to share with you briefly a message from Lupe Ramos Montini, former member of Michigan State Board of Education.
Greetings. I am Lupe Ramos Montini, a member of the State Board of Education in the state of Michigan. As we continue to read reports that the literacy crisis continues, I would like to recommend that we welcome Mr. Landin to the table next month. Over the years, Mr. Landin has been diligent and persistent in seeking to share with the state and the district superintendents, as well as elected policymakers, the solution for achieving equity for underserved communities. Reports continue to document our crisis in education. I believe his solution has merit and is worthy of your consideration. By inviting Mr. Landin to the table, ESEA will provide education a great opportunity. Performance ED continues to be right on target, and personally, I believe it is worth listening and obtaining a much needed solution.
Equity chronologically. We're all familiar with many, if not most, if all of these, but it's important in terms of context for what we're going to discuss during the presentation that we review them. Brown versus Board of Education, 54. Civil Rights Act of 1964. The Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965. A Nation at Risk, 1983. No Child Left Behind, 2002. And the Every Student Succeeds Act, 2015. It's important to understand the relationship of desegregation, now referred to as equity. The U.S. Department of Education in 2016 renamed the Desegregation Assistance Centers to Equity Assistance Centers. Therefore, there's a transition from one to the other for a continuance in the pursuit of. School segregation is almost always tied to resources. We'll talk a lot about that during the presentation. There are over 300 open desegregation orders, some of them court-ordered, over 40 years old. At the foundation is the issue of school funding. For our purposes, one of the best working definitions I've come across is this one. Equality denotes that everyone is at the same level, everything is shared with exact division. Equity refers to the qualities of justice, fairness, impartiality, and even-handedness. Equality equals quantity, whereas equity equals quality. They are not mutually exclusive, nor do they preclude one another, but together make for a powerful approach at addressing the issues of equity. There's going to be 4 areas of discussion that we're going to cover. ESSA's National Education Equity Initiatives, the National Ed Tech Plan, Meaningful Access to Technology, deals with digital learning and quality instruction. And the National Urban League's ESSA State Plans Report, which to me, is some of the most comprehensive monitoring that anyone has done. And thank you, Mark Morial and the National Urban League, for the work that you're doing and continuing to do. Finally, what has all that brought us to? Performance Ed's high value resource equity solution, essentially anytime, everywhere education for every student. Equity and opportunity for all. During the campaign last year, there was an education summit where all of the major presidential candidates got together and talked about their views. These are just some of the highlights of that. A focus on blended learning, and little did they know at the time how important that would be, along with distance and remote learning given COVID in 2020. Triple Title I funding. Everyone suggested it. It's been a long-standing proposal, and we're going to talk about one way you can actually accomplish that. Multitude of issues before our children walk into school: mental health, food security, suicide rate up 10% annually, and the explosion of special needs. Full funding for IDEA. Autism, presently 90% unemployed. Disabled, presently 70% unemployed. And the issue of cultural equity. 2015 saw 50% are students of color, 80% of teachers are not. 5 years later, that really hasn't changed. My brother's keeper. Early on in the Obama administration, an initiative by Secretary Duncan and President Obama. Bottom line, the 6 goals of the challenge have yet to be realized. Race to the top goals: development of rigorous standards and better assessments. Race to the top is 10 years ago, but essentially it served as the guidance and the foundation for the solution that we've developed. Analytics data systems, support for teachers and school leaders, increased resources for the rigorous interventions needed to turn around the lowest performing schools. Poverty is the single greatest factor limiting student achievement. I could have looked up numerous updates. The truth of it is they are even more concerning than this one. The fact of the matter is it's been true, it holds true, and it will continue to hold true, and we'll speak on that more as we go forward. Essentially, the disparities are glaring and are in front of us every day. 2019, minority students. 11 million students are below poverty. Not at poverty, but below poverty. College and career ready, average 20%. That means 80% are not. 25% pass the ACT in all 4 areas. 75% do not. 70% of jobs require college. 2015 plans had 10% increased goals by 2020. 2018 statistics average 1% increases in terms of progress. That means 10% of the 100% that had been planned. In our program, we'll talk more about it, but there is proven efficacy that comes out of the Ohio Project where we can document 10% growth for students in 1 year. So we got a lot of work to do and a long way to go to meet the goals of the 2015 plans. Achievement gaps haven't budged in 25 years. That is supported not only by the Skillman Foundation, but by numerous other resources in terms of their research as well. We all look to NAEP for guidance in terms of evaluating the assessments that go on every couple of years to give us some indication of where we are in terms of growth and progress. At the risk of sounding somewhat critical, I think the best summation I've read so far is in 4 words: fewer gains and bigger gaps. Schools must give poor and minority students equal access to resources. The Department of Education Office of Civil Rights can look into resource disparities in a range of areas. I've highlighted the three areas that we really want to focus on. Number one is professional development. In those areas, cultural competency and restorative practices. The Office of Civil Rights can also look into whether states and districts are providing poor and minority students with their fair share of qualified support staff, such as school psychologists, guidance counselors, and paraprofessionals. Presently, that ratio is 1,500 to 1. According to some, 750 to 1. Either way, even at 750, it's 3 times greater of any manageable caseload, and at staffing levels in the best staff schools at 30% for this service, we have a long way to go. This is one of the pillars of our solution, and we have an answer for you. Equal access to technology, including laptops, tablets, the internet, and instructional materials, such as calculators and library books. To be in compliance and in alignment with the Office of Civil Rights from the Department of Education, this is another key pillar of our solution. ESEA and ESA must give teachers and principals the resources they need, make real investments in high poverty schools and districts, provide them with extra resources and support, especially the lowest achieving 5%, which are usually referred to as priority schools. It must address funding inequities for schools that serve high proportions of low-income students. ESSA's 2016 federal budget initiatives. There were 4 new areas that were added to the ESEA law. Number 1, equity and outcomes, leveraging resource utilization, long-term suggested 10-year initiative commitments, and finally, innovation. Altogether, these things, again, have validated the work that we've done and the suggestions and solutions we're going to present to you today. ESA and ESSA, ensuring equity in education. Funding inequities. Nationwide, the highest poverty districts spend 15.6% less than our lowest poverty districts in state and local funds. High and low poverty school district per pupil expenditure gap of 10.8% increased to a gap of 15.6%, a 50% increase over 10 years. Nevada invests 30% less in high minority districts. The funding budget. Most budgets essentially are aligned with these formulas: 9% federal, 91% state and local. 2019, there were $6 billion less than in 2011, and for 2021, they are projecting 8 to 20% cuts due to the reduction in tax revenue due to the shutdowns from COVID in terms of business. The national average for student expenditures and formula grants is $11,000. By contrast, 80% of your top 10 districts spend a minimum of $20,000. A dated chart talking about closing the funding equity gap said it took us 20 years from 1994 to 2015 to close it 58%, with a projection of equity being reached in 2031, 17 years from 2015. Today, 5 years later, that has been amended to project the closure of the equity gap in funding to be 2071. Ed Week report, as a sidebar but a serious consideration in factoring funding going forward, finds that ESSA goals for English learners are purely symbolic. What does that mean? It means districts must do better in terms of ELL, English language arts, and English language learners. Hispanics are now 18% for all intents and purposes. 1/5 of our budgets will be tied to that. It is purely unconscionable that for 20% of the population, goals from the law are viewed as being symbolic. We need to put some teeth in this. Thank you. The National Education Technology Plan, learning, assessment, teaching, infrastructure, and leadership. We must rethink some basic assumptions and redesign our education system. These initiatives require investment. We must leverage technology. Now, the NETP is presently open to accepting suggestions as to what we want to see in the 2020 NETP plan. Please, I invite you to take the opportunity to visit their website, submit your recommendations as suggestions. It is rare that we have an opportunity to influence the making of policy going forward, and at no other time in our history has this plan been more significant and more important and more applicative than it is today with our new reality given COVID. Closing the digital learning gap. The problem with education in America is not a lack of excellence, it is a lack of equity. The infrastructure, the digital use divide. We're going to move a little quickly now because of time, but you can see that this is all there. The most important aspects of technology in education is the ability to level the field of opportunity for students. Enabling access and effective use. Students and educators will have access to robust and comprehensive infrastructure when and where they need it for learning, and that has been our guiding purpose in the development of our solution. I'll drop all the way down to the bottom. You're going to hear more from Kajit later, but to that point, a total of 5 million hours of homework have been completed, and 128 million sites are blocked monthly. The accessing of resources. Again, I refer you to the National Ed Tech Plan. The pages are listed. You have Future Ready Schools, White House Connected, Digital Equity Act of 2019, Set that Connects, Digital Promise, and Connect K-12. Connectivity, 2020. 25% of schools meet the 1 megabyte threshold necessary to enable every teacher in every school to use technology every day. That means 3/4 of our schools do not meet the minimum threshold to provide access on a daily basis. Connectivity at home. 55% of low-income children under the age of 10 lack access at home. 42%, ages 16 to 17, no connectivity at home. 25% unable to complete. 9 million children, mostly of color, need supports. Digital learning and technology. Federal policy recommendations to seize the opportunity. Bottom line, government has the opportunity to assist districts by creating policies that encourage innovation and provide options for digital learning and tech. Case in point, last year, 2019, Title I, they have permitted in terms of regulations and provided regulations for pooling and braiding of funding, making it possible for smaller districts and other funding streams to pool resources to get what they need for our students. Ed tech challenges. The only thing that really matters on this chart is the far right. When surveyed, 250 ed tech leaders posed the question, what are your top challenges for putting in place technology-enabled environments? Budget constraints and lack of resources, 75.9% as the largest challenge. The National Urban League, Standards of Equity and Excellence, a lens on state ESEA plans. Kudos to the National Urban League and Mark Morial. Again, some of the things that we need to look at are their findings. Only 6 of the 37 states rated excellent in terms of their plans, which amounted to 6 and 6 of 12 indicators. Resource equity represents the level of funds, effort, and emphasis states intend to deploy to identify, report, and address inequities that exist across their schools and districts. 31 states fell short. Educator equity prioritize cultural competency, restorative practices for exclusionary practice reduction. What are we talking about? Suspensions, expulsions, both of which are pathways to school to prison pipeline. Performance Ed's response, a comprehensive leverage bundle solution to educate the whole child out of poverty. Number 1, an ebook ecosystem. Number 2, a device combined with internet access on and off campus 24/7, 365 with analytics. SAP, Student Assistance Program, again available 24/7, 365. Behavioral wellness, mental health with analytics and dashboards. CCPDT, cultural competency and restorative practices, professional development training with certification upon completion. I had opportunity to meet and discuss with Mike Flanagan, former state superintendent from Michigan Department of Education, now retired. And when we first met, he shared his thoughts in terms of our conversation, and he prepared this statement for you for this conference. His message to you is, Rogelio Landin is a man on a mission, making it possible for students in underserved communities to have the essential tools and services they need to succeed. He has developed a solution to make that possible. I encourage you to listen carefully. I did, and then had him present to the Michigan State Board of Education. Invest in learning how Performance Ed can support you in advancing progress for your state and/or district. Ebook ecosystem, an innovative, economical, custom library ecosystem with analytics, including portals for students, teachers, and administrators. A comprehensive qualitative and quantitative analytics to provide real-time data. It also includes a device, a new device for each student biannually that they own, which fosters responsibility and will carry over to other aspects of their success. The lifespan for most tech purchases today is 4 years at an average $1,000 investment. We're talking about cutting that in half and making sure that they're current with state specifications for technology. Title I, perpetual replenishment strategy. And again, no device over 2 years old. And within Title I now, which allows for pooling and braiding, it expands the possibilities of being able to afford the solution. We're also committed to reaching a true one-to-one by 2021 and 2022. There are all kinds of statistics about where we're at with one-to-one, but the fact of the matter is that we are still far short from where we need to be for all of our students to have the tools and resources necessary to compete and succeed in their educational pursuits. What this does, because it's bundled the way it is it adds millions to state tech budgets, because all of this doesn't have to come out of those budgets. And the fact that there is no RFP for what we're proposing also means that it's tech budget neutral. You're going to hear more about Khajiit's Internet Access, our partner in this endeavor. Internet access is included for each student annually with analytics, 24/7, 365. Let's hear from Michael Flood, Senior Vice President of Khajiit.
Thank you, Rogelio. Really appreciate you having us join your presentation here, and thank you to everybody who's attending and being focused on this issue around digital equity. I am going to share a few slides here as we talk through some information about Khajiit. First about myself, my name is Michael. I lead the education business unit of Khajiit. I've been involved in the ed tech industry and the telecommunications industry and the overlap between those for about 15 years. Really focused on making sure we connect every student to broadband. I want to talk a little bit about our background and then about the ways that we're serving off-campus needs today. The company's been around since 2003, started off around cell phones and kids and really moved into the education market, serving students, serving school buses, serving facilities, both in the US and Canada, with now also some pilot projects over in Europe. Over the last 17 years. We've been focused on student broadband, education broadband off campus for almost 10 years. As you all know, and as Mr. Landon's presentation went into great depth on, this is still a very big problem. There are lots of students out there who are lacking adequate internet access or lacking a sufficient device to meet the needs of really being a virtual student, whether that's part-time or full-time. And this puts them at a disadvantage with less choice in their educational pathway, as well as less access to supplemental educational opportunities. So this is really where our focus as a company has been. Khajiit is very much focused on connecting these students. So whether it's a student who's mobile, carrying a mobile hotspot with them in their backpack, if it's a connection at their home or on a school bus, we are there. We've been doing this for a decade, and we were very well positioned because of that history to respond during the COVID-19 crisis. And we've done that with these distance learning bundles built around Khajiit Smart Spots, and of course, by expanding our solutions on school buses. So in the center of this slide, you'll see the Khajiit Smart Spot is what we're most well known for. We provide these devices nicely kitted for kids, with instruction cards in there that are specifics for kids and parents, and all of the connectivity on those, one touch for the student, but using any cellular network. Likewise, when we connect a school bus, we can use one or multiple cellular networks to provide optimal coverage and capacity on the school bus to serve students when they're riding the bus, or if that bus is parked in a community. And then on the outside of this slide, you'll also see that we connect embedded devices like a Chromebook with LTE built in or a Windows laptop, and then physical facilities, whether those are athletic facilities or parks or even assessment centers that maybe are spun up temporarily for proctored exams. Regardless of what that solution is, we focus on it being easy. And when you talk about our Smart Spot solution, that means that what is received by the school or the district is fully kitted, has all of the accessories, already has the SIM card loaded in, is packaged and ready to hand out to a student, activated, provisioned, no work to be done by the district. For many other solutions in the market, there are certainly options to kind of piecemeal together hardware, service, support, all of those things, but we do it all, and we make that very simple for school districts. So a lot of our schools don't have staff who can really build out their own telecom program, and we take on all of that. We provide tier 1 support now, so students or their caregivers can call us directly, and we can answer those questions about the connectivity that we're providing. And because we work with all of the major North American networks, Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, Sprint, US Cellular, Bell Mobility, Rogers Wireless, et cetera, we can provide optimal coverage when a customer is first choosing which network will serve their students, as well as we can provide a network guarantee so that if the network choice was wrong, we can swap it out for another network at no charge. So we really have the ability to provide the best coverage in the industry. All of the connectivity that students use comes back to our Sentinel platform. And within Sentinel, we're able to consistently apply policies around data usage, web filtering, SIPA compliance, security, reporting and analytics so that the school or the district staff can see how students are using the service, where they're going online, what they're doing with it, what those utilization rates look like. Really to inform choices around education and network services on an ongoing basis. So even if you have many different carriers that you're using, many different networks that you're connecting into our platform, it's all in a single pane of glass. And you can see all of those users with consistent behavior and policy across them. We also help our districts find funding sources, whether those are title programs. You can see multiple title programs here that we have folks using. Other federal programs, such as rural education programs, IDEA, whether they're private grants. And then, of course, all of this COVID-specific funding. We've hosted webinars with the U.S. Department of Education, with the State Education Technology Directors Alliance. And then our solutions also provide flexibility. Whether you have CapEx dollars or OpEx dollars to spend, we can design the solution to fit the way that your money is allocated from your local budget, from your state budget, or from a federal program. So thank you very much again for your time today, and thank you, Rogelio, for letting us take some time during your presentation here to talk about connecting students to broadband and making sure that every one of these students that is being connected by Performance Ed are also have the connectivity that they need wherever they are. Thank you.
Socio-emotional health, Boston Basics, race, gender, and socioeconomic status by age of 2. This is when we start tracking our children. Children as young as 9 and 10 are contemplating suicide. We as adults, in many cases, have no clue. The suicide rate is up 56% for our youth. Homeless, 1.5 million, doubled over 10 years with an 11% annual growth rate. Social worker and psychologist ratio, again, 1,500 to 1, or be it what it may, still, whatever number you choose to believe, is grossly inadequate in terms of meeting the needs for services for our students. Another pillar of our solution is our Student Assistance Program, which was developed with Health Management Systems of America. And now, here is Amy Mansour to tell us about our SAP, our Behavioral Wellness Initiative.
Good morning. My name is Amy Mansour from Health Management Systems of America. Thank you for tuning in today. I hope you will truly learn more about our Student Assistant Program and how it can benefit you. The world is changing, and so are our schools and environments. Students today face issues and challenges we never imagined a generation ago. Stress, anxiety, and fatigue are common. Students face issues with bullying and limited access to behavioral health counseling. School safety and violence prevention have never been more important, especially now during COVID-19. While there are many common barriers to success, each student presents unique and individual challenges. The Student Assistance Program is a nationwide leader in providing customized 24/7, 365 behavioral health counseling and support services. Through our proven programs and services, we help students thrive emotionally, academically, and behaviorally. HMSA is a privately held, national recognized and accredited behavioral health provider. Established in 1980, the company has grown from a regional provider of behavioral health services to a national recognized leader in student assistant programs, personal and professional training, as well as wellness programs. Today, HMSA provides customizable behavioral health and student assistance programs to thousands of clients across the country. Our clients range from small private institutions in rural areas to large public school systems in urban centers. Let me tell you a little bit more about our counselors. HMSA's Student Assistant Program counselors are held to rigorous professional standards to ensure optimum clinical outcomes. All clinical staff are degreed and certified in the field of mental health. HMSA utilizes a full continuum of professional staff to meet the financial and operational requirements of its client companies. Our clinical staff have an average of 17 years postgraduate clinical experience. Counselors are certified in a wide range of specialty areas that include certified advanced alcohol and drug counseling, substance abuse professional, and crisis response services. We also have a national service network where we connect students with professional counselors wherever and whenever they need one, whether that's near the school, at home during breaks, and almost everywhere in between. Supporting HMSA's Student Assistant Program Life Staff is an extensive national network of clinical specialists who meet strict privileging requirements. This network includes more than 13,000 credentialed clinical staff in over 3,000 cities throughout the continental United States, Alaska, Puerto Rico, and even Hawaii. Our extensive network of credentialed staff allows for clients to receive counseling outside of the 9-to-5 workday and on weekends. We also provide 24-hour access to this same level of behavioral health counseling via online and telephone sessions. More than just behavioral health counseling, the Student Assistance Program offers a comprehensive system for ensuring students receive the support they need when they need it. Since our services are available in a variety of ways via telephone, online, and face-to-face, we make it easy for students as well as parents to receive access to expert counseling and support services. By offering this sort of unparalleled access to counseling services, you are able to demonstrate your school's commitment to health and safety within the school. Cultural diversity and understanding are top priorities for HMSA. The Student Assistance Program supports diverse student population with access to behavioral health counseling and support services in more than 140 languages. Whether you look at it from the point of view of an administrator or a student, the Student Assistance Program makes sense. Here are just a few of the advantages. For administrators, you would receive integrated existing counseling programs. We help with violence within the school. We mitigate institutional liability, increase student retention, turnkey solutions that let you focus on education, not counseling, sophisticated services with 24/7 access, customizable for individual schools. We also demonstrate a commitment to parents as well as students. For students and parents, we provide convenient 24/7 access to behavioral health counseling. Telephone, online, and face-to-face counseling sessions are all available. Confidentiality is encouraged within each student use. It's a helpline for parents where they can call in at any time of the day just to receive some in-the-moment support. Diverse group of professionals. Counseling available whenever and wherever you need it. The Student Assistance Program is a turnkey counseling solution that lets you do what you do best. We are here to focus on behavioral health counseling for students so you can focus on educating them. Thank you for tuning in.
Capacities. Worth noting, this is what you heard in her presentation, and it bears repeating. Licensed Master of Social Work Counselors, average 17 years experience. National Service Network, available 24/7, 365. 13,000 clinical staff, 3,000 cities, U.S., Puerto Rico, and Alaska. Multiple digital platforms, and 140 languages. And remembering that this is not instead of, but in addition to existing resources. Finally, we're at Cultural Competency Professional Development, and now our CCPD developer and trainer, Dr. Vanita Kelly, consultant, will share with you where we're at with that.
Hello everyone, at ESEA, I'm Dr. Vanita Kelly, and I am a part of Performance Ed's Equity, How to Pay For It presentation this year. Thank you for joining us. We really do appreciate your interest in how it is that we're all prepared to be the best kinds of educators we can be for the students that we are encountering today. I am going to present the cultural proficiency aspect of the equity solution that Performance Ed is presenting. Cultural proficiency is crucial to achieving equity and social justice in education. Our approach to equity has to do with an idea to have real efficacy, real meaning, real impact in education contexts. We start talking about cultural proficiency as part of the natural need in education, not as an aside, not as a one-time 45-minute overview. We are talking about cultural proficiency as a part of the real dynamic of getting to know the students that you have in the classroom and or having the tools that are necessary in order to build an education system. And a really good working definition of culture that so many people that I've trained over the years have found to be useful is based in intercultural communication theory. Culture is ordered behavior and norms developed by a people over time as shaped and influenced by their worldview. It's expressed through their customs, their habits, their expectations, again, their norms. Understanding the dynamic of culture for both the educator and as the educator looks at the student, as the student looks at the educator, is going to be really key to strong educational approaches, which is a position NEA has taken ever since the early 2000s. Pennington's model of culture, if you don't know how cultures are made up and how culture itself functions in the lives of people every day, then it makes it more difficult for you to actually see and understand the culture that is working in front of you. This culture approach is one that actually helps to heal, if that's what we need, but actually helps to make bridges, if that's what we need. It actually helps to bring different cultures together so that acrimony and division are not a part of the understandings that people have about who they are in the world together. One of the key aspects of the culture model is the idea of worldview. And where worldviews are different is where we're finding the divisions that are amongst people that people sometimes have difficulty surmounting or overcoming. There is a way to actually move forward across what we think of as racial and class and social divides in order for people to come together. My argument is, the more we understand and recognize that worldview is at the core of how we are seeing each other as different in insurmountable ways, it can also be a solution to that. The scaffold approach of culture and then understanding worldview, and then there are other dynamics that come across in the culture model in a training situation. People begin to identify they are at the center of their own understanding of culture. They can understand how people are doing their own culture around them and not feel off balance because it's different than what they know. We can work towards understanding and interpreting one another as closely and correctly as we can. Understanding that gives us even more efficacy in our classrooms and an engagement with people in our work environments as well as in our world or social or societal environments. Do you know that a lot of our restorative justice practices are based in cultural norm practices? Yes, restorative justice practices can in fact be informed by cultural proficiency theory and practice, and that is included in the equity model as well. Restorative justice practices are tenets of social justice. Teachers are among the most concerned about social justice in the society. Your professional aims for social justice through education can actually be informed by your becoming a culturally proficient educator. We've been operating in a one-mode cultural way to educate children. So social justice in education, we argue in the equity solution from performance ed, will in fact come from teachers becoming culturally proficient. And this is why that solution needs to have cultural proficiency as a very deeply included part of professional development. We know that social justice is the outcome of restorative justice practices and approaches to teaching. We know that we are working to reverse the exclusion of cultural proficiency from the training and teaching approaches for educators. If you don't have the major tool that you need in the education practice today to serve in your profession as you may have envisioned, make it cultural proficiency part of the normative professional development practice, not a drop-in. That's part of the equity solution. Thank you for joining us. I'm Dr. Vanita Kelly with Kelly Communication and Consulting. If you're looking to have a conversation with me, find me on LinkedIn or via Mr. Rogelio Landon, President, Performance Ed. Thank you for your time and attention. Hope to see you soon. There's a lot of good work for us to do together out there.
All of this brings us to our high value proposition, wherein we have heard from the partners and the subject matter experts that have brought us to what we're offering you today. This proposition requires an investment of $500 a student, which leveraged provides a value of $37,500 a student. That formula is available to you. We can put that together for your district. All you need to do is contact us, and we will be happy to work out a formula that will demonstrate to you how this is possible. Let's just take the 9 million students that are still in need. A total investment would be $4.5 billion. Value-add products and services are worth $7,500 per student. That can be converted to 20% in-kind, which can then be leveraged for an additional 80% in potential philanthropy grants, with the potential of fully funding Title I at an estimated $47.5 billion. All that with no new money. Leveraging allows the solution to pay for replenishing itself, making it sustainable and not dependent on stimulus or other one-off funding like ERA and CARES. Evolving digital equity. Ultimately, a successful digital transformation requires ubiquitous leadership. We must leverage the resources by creating the context and conditions for leadership to take enlightened risks. What that simply means is that if we want to see things change, we have to change the way that we see things. Today, because of COVID, education was forced to change. It has, it will, it must continue to evolve. Because of COVID and the anticipated reopening of our schools, PPE is now at the forefront of that formula. Performance Ed is now proud to offer PPE at scale for school districts. We also provide packaged PPE kits for families. The PPE is separate from and not included in the bundled solution, but we are pleased to take the opportunity to consult with you on your needs and find the formula that best fits a way for you to provide what you need in PPE to reopen your schools. This essentially covers all of the primary pillars of our solution, including now the addition of PPE, so help make your schools safer for our children and for your staff. I'm hoping that you found this time as valuable as I have. And again, I want to thank you for staying with me for this transformative hour, and ESEA's committee for permitting me an opportunity and a seat at the table to share this with you after all these years. Again, I am Rogelio Landin, president of Performance Ed. You can reach me at performanceed.net, Rogelio Landin at yahoo.com, or 313-506-6627. I'm looking forward to continuing this dialogue. There is nothing in this presentation that we cannot support with documentation, because that's how we got here. Thank you so very much for your time, attention, and your investment in our students, in our futures, and in our eroding and eradicating the social determinants of education.